All right. Michael Scott.
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
I'm good.
How you doing? How's your day?
It's been good. It's
Yeah?
been a rainy, dreary Saturday, but good nonetheless.
Okay. Fort Hood.
Yeah.
Born in Fort Hood.
Yeah. You remember?
Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell me about, your upbringing. Tell me.
Yeah, sure. Fort Hood. Killeen, Texas is where I was born.
Mhm.
And Fort Hood is actually a place that only really exists to me in my mind. I was very young when I was there, and then my parents were immediately placed in their next post, which was in Germany.
Mm.
So then I lived in Germany for a couple of years. I have pictures of me like playing in the snow in Germany, and when I think back on like different childhood memories, I think back to like trying to figure out what it was to live on a military basis. Probably the first time I really like remember having that full experience was when I was 7 years old. I lived in Hawaii, and I was in second and third grade out there. First, second, and third grade. When I started out there, we started living in a hotel. We were waiting for our assignment on base, which is Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. It's on Oahu on the south side. And we lived in a hotel for 90 days while we waited. So it was like Dunstan's checks in, kind of like playing Monopoly with my other good friend whose parents were stationed there, going to the pool, learning the maid's name, and, just like living that life, which, when you're young, you don't really have the scope to really think of this as abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back on it, I'm just like, I lived in a hotel for 90 days. Like, and it was fucking awesome. I mean, it probably makes sense as to why I interact with the world the way that I do, because for me, like, living in that environment it didn't kind of ring into me that was sort of strange. So like when I see maids or when I see people that are concierge, like I just like, I'm that weirdo that's just like, how's your day? Like, I want to ask them questions. I want to get to know them because they're so familiar to me in that way. But then the other, like, to answer your question or to kind of move past that is once you do get on base, the cool thing is that bases are filled with people from all walks of life, because a lot of times in our military in America, a lot of low-income families utilize the service to kind of bring their family up.
Mm-hmm.
If you join the service, there's a lot of things that you're giving up. To live a soldier's life is definitely a sacrifice, but there's a lot of things that you gain too. Structure, discipline, income, regular understanding of like paths for growth and understanding of who you are, what you do. A lot of those things happen for militaries. So when I lived in Schofield Barracks, there was like a family down the street from me that was from Tennessee. There was another family from across the little playground park area that was in the center of our like barracks, our apartment. It's kind of like an apartment complex. That was from Korea. There was African American, Hispanic. Like, you had that all in one environment, and I think that to me informed like my worldview.
Where are your parents from?
My mom is from South Texas,
Okay.
and my mom's family is Hispanic, Mexican, and Spanish.
Okay.
And then my dad is black. He is from here, New Orleans. And when he was younger, his parents passed away while he was young, so he moved out to a place called Gramercy, which is where Zapp's potato chips are made.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the bayou or Cajun country. It's specifically the river parishes in Louisiana, and that's where he finished high school and his family's from. So Louisiana, Texas, I'm basically Beyonce.
So how do you identify yourself? Like, are you Spanish? Are you black? Are you
mixed race?
I'm Colombian.
You're Colombian.
Yeah, mom and dad's Colombian.
Got it. But you grew up in...
I grew up in Texas.
Okay.
Then I moved to Louisiana, New Orleans, and
so you're Beyonce too.
Yeah, pretty much. We're both Beyonce.
Yeah, we're all Beyonce.
Yeah.
So I identify as a lot of different things. I when I was young, I always wanted to be black, and I just like looking in my dad's eyes and like growing up in that home where my mom and dad separated when I was young, so I lived with my dad. I just assumed that I was black, and the rest of the world saw that too. And there was this one thing that I used to hold on to probably until high school, which was that like if you have 1 ounce of black blood in your body, then you're considered black, right? So I used to try to really hold on to that identity, and I did all the things outwardly to try to express what was going on internally. So I made sure that like I dressed the way that my cousins dressed. You know, I listened to the music of my people in that way, and I really just lived a life of not thinking of myself as mixed race so much as thinking of myself as black and Spanish. Like I was black first, and then I was this other thing. And it wasn't until I got to high school and I started to try to like branch out into my different like interests that I was kind of given pushback from some of my like black friends. You know, oh, you want to be white now because you want to go play baseball, you want to go do these other things, and I'm like, it had a lot to do with where I was living, like living in South Louisiana, and in that particular town, the majority of the population was white or black. Right? So it's like 50-50 in this culture, and then you have someone like me. Not many others. No, there's definitely no Asians, no Hispanics. So you had someone like me who's kind of mixed race, who could toe the line, and it really messes with people, and then it messes with you because you get treated so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I think that it wasn't until after that that I decided that I was just going to be me and like relinquish a lot of that. I could just basically say that I then like understood that I was being privileged by being able to relinquish my blackness all of a sudden. Like that's not something black people can do. It's something a mixed race person can do. And I think that that's something that it wasn't until probably about 5 or 6 years later and I got to college and really started to think about identity in retrospect and like how my early identity shaped my choices. And then you are in your 20s, and so then you get to decide, okay, now with that understanding, how am I going to project myself into the world to make experiences for myself? And by wanting to just be mixed race and to be seen as that way, I think I really did myself sort of a disservice in that I didn't think about what it was like to be black. I just sort of held on to the culture of it, but I didn't think about the day-to-day challenges of it. And then the past, let's say, decade, we've all had to examine that as a culture. You know, everything from Trayvon to Alton in Baton Rouge, you get to see the effects of discrimination and racism and identity politics and identity issues and challenges. And I don't want to tear up or anything, but like it's heartbreaking. It's sad. And so now what I view myself as is a mixed race person who grew up identifying black and definitely being in touch with my Hispanic side as well, that understands my privilege and utilizes it to leverage more and more development for people of both of those cultures and just the development of people that are marginalized in general. I mean, if you throw in my LGBTQIA status in there, I'm gay. So QIA is like the sort of the next added on abbreviations. That's something that is another layer of identity, and I'm not sorry for any of them, you know. And I think that that's kind of how I live a life. Is like I'm very much a cornucopia. So yeah, I'm Vin Diesel and I'm Beyonce. That's how I feel.
that's yeah, that is a heck of a combination, right? So
yeah.
Passion's obviously acting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring it back to day one. You know, what made you wanted to start acting?
I was one of those kids that like always had an imaginary world. Wherever I went, my parents were both in the Army. The first thing that I had with me was my imagination, and then the second thing was the television. So when we got to a new city or a new state, one of the things I would do once we unpacked was sit in front of the TV and I'd play one of my VHSs. VHSs.
Yeah. 90s baby.
Right?
Yeah.
80s baby.
Well, 80s baby, but grew up in the 90s.
Right, exactly. So, but you know, like, that's something that I think we did a lot of back in the day. Nowadays, there's so much content out there. So, you know, you might have your favorites for sure, and everybody has their favorite, you know, genre or studio, but you don't collect those things the way that, because they're not as tangible, I don't think, anymore. And so
it's all digital. So
it's all, like, and so it's kind of like
make believe. It's
in
not
the
there.
ether,
You
right.
can't grab it.
Right, but when you go and you pick out that VHS that's like,
For sure, man.
Homeward
Blockbuster
Bound,
days. Yeah.
E.T.,
Yeah,
and you
man.
put it in you set up the VCR and you got to go through the process of putting all the things together. I mean, that was a little bit of a ritual for me because those things were what I knew.
Yeah.
That was like me going to a comfort zone.
Mm.
So a lot of times people go for film and television or work in film and television, I think, because they like the idea of it being that escape.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, there is an escapism, but there's also that comfort and familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm going to go hang out with E.T. I'm going to go and, be with Beetlejuice for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it got me through. So that's what started to tick the talk of like, okay, down the road, figuring out where I want to live in my life, like what career path I wanted to take. I wanted to be able to make things that like could inspire another generation of people to do that, to have that sense of, going to a movie or going to a story that they really love for a sense of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, of course, I think that there's a drive to want to create change and like inspire people. So when I was 20, I went to school, wanted to do film and television, but I was at LSU at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a film, like a fully fleshed out film program at that point. So I studied theater, which was actually, I think, sort of like a universe godsend of, like, that's the better path. Because if you say you want to be an actor, I think that all actors should start in theater.
Okay.
Working in film and television is another beast and an animal, but having a background and understanding of like where the art began, I think is super important and can really inform you as an artist outside of the profession.
So you were drawn to acting through film.
Correct. You got it.
But then you transitioned to theater.
Right. And studied theater and really fell in love with the process of developing character and working with the ensemble and with the director and with the crew to tell a story and create an experience. And that, I think, is like what expanded my concept of what it even means to be a storyteller. And I think that you take that energy with you into filmmaking. Your world building. You're not just putting something two-dimensional on paper on screen and like hoping that people fill in the rest of the blanks. I think that's part of it, but you really have to kind of create a world. And I learned that from theater. I don't think I would have had that same experience otherwise.
We're just gonna go with the quick round of just stuff.
All
okay.
right, you go.
Favorite food.
Italian.
Favorite actor.
Right now.
Right now.
Damn, it's always such a hard question. It used to be Johnny Depp back in the day. Has done anything that's been hit me hard in a while. I'm really intrigued by this young dude coming up. I like Garrett Hudlin. I like Timothy Chalamet. Just excited about those guys. Who else comes to mind? I mean, actors. I love them all. Actors. So you love something about. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about actress?
Gotta be Meryl. Like
Meryl?
Yeah. It used to be when I was coming up. It was Michelle Pfeiffer. Then I was all about Sandra Bullock. After loving Sandra Bullock for a while, I started thinking about like Jada Pinkett Smith, and I really liked her humor and her fire, and like she had been in so many different things. And then Meryl Streep. Now I know this is rapid fire round, but I want to share this story that I saw recently. I was watching it. Nia Long, who I've always loved, do an interview with. It was like a SAG-AFTRA Foundation thing. She talks about the time that she met Meryl Streep, and I just really like enjoyed her talking about Meryl Streep, because in that particular conversation she talks about how she was like at an event and she saw Meryl Streep, and then Meryl Streep turns in the Meryl Streep way and was just like, Nia. And then Nia was like, you know me? And then I was like, oh, damn, that's so cool, to see two people that you just revere and like each other and have that appreciation for each other. And then it was just a cute anecdote, but I was just like, man, I love both of them so much, and I think I love them even more now, just knowing that they appreciate each other's work in that way, because they are kind of disparate in some ways. Like if you look at the body of their work, and if you're not aware of like who Nia Long is, and to think that like her and even Meryl could even like have that association, but that's the beauty of acting, is like it brings so many different human beings together. And I love Meryl Streep.
Man, who doesn't?
Yeah.
But what about director?
I'm really intrigued by like newer directors. Barry Jenkins did something that hit me to the core of my being, Like Moonlight basically is my story, growing up being black, gay, poor, and what those things did to shape like my mindset and my worldview. And then in the South, uh, and just to see someone out there like being able to tell that story so dynamically and interestingly, he'd be so really cool to like work with. I know Issa's doing more stuff like on television, but I love Issa Rae. Um,
Insecure is great.
it's so brilliant. It's so fresh, but it's about this universalism that we all share, but through the black experience and like what that means. It's like something for black people by black people, and I love that. And I love that it's on HBO. Childish Gambino, these young people that are Damien Chazelle, they're, I think, out there creating the work that they love, and it just so happens to be that time where we need to hear those stories. But they do it in such a dynamic way, and they work so very hard to get there that it'd be really cool to be in the same room as them, to get that energy as them.
Let's go back to food. So, favorite food is Italian.
I like Italian food. Yeah,
Okay.
It's like my favorite. Like,
Give me some like dishes. Like, what's your favorite Italian dishes?
There's this lasagna that I used to have in college at this small place. It was called Panetta's. It's a hole in the wall. You walk in, like you seat yourself. But there was a cast iron skillet, personal pan size, and they layered it with spinach, which I'd never had spinach in my lasagna before. It's the fucking most amazing lasagna ever.
Sounds great.
With like a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
I like pastas. I'm on this new kick where I'm pescatarian now, right? So trying my best to clean up like meat consumption. So I think now that was going to be a little bit more of a challenge for me. I'm also trying to pull a little bit away from like dairy, even though I'm like ovo-lactose, so eggs and dairy are still in my diet. But the more I think about why I like Italian food, the more I understand it's just basically it's a type of soul food, right? It's like it comes from the earth. You make the ingredients. You really have to work hard to create the pastas, and then everybody does it in the traditional way. But then everybody's mom or grandma does it in the way that's like the best, right?
Yeah,
and so there's just a lot of soul in there, and I think that when you go to Italian restaurants, especially like the old school ones, there's just that vibe of you're walking into back in time, and I think that's probably just my romantic idealist coming out in food, but I love it, and it brings people together. There's always big meals. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about New Orleans.
Okay. We could talk forever.
What's your
camera there?
What's your favorite restaurant in town?
Favorite restaurant in the city. I mean, as you can tell, like I like things because of how they make me feel or what they make me remember about how I feel. So one of my favorite joints is probably Lola's. It's on Canal, and my best friend and I, when we moved here, we were at this coffee shop, and we hadn't moved here yet. We were here examining neighborhoods and trying to figure out what would be the best for us to where would be the best place to kind of like set up our shop so we could move on to the next stage of life. And we happened to end up in Bayou St. John. And we're like, this is really cool. I've never really been to this part of the city before, because everybody knows the Marigny and the Quarter and Uptown and all those things. And so it's those other neighborhoods that I think are those gems of our city. And Bayou St. John was one of them. And we drove around. We ended up finding an apartment on that day, and that was our home, and that was where we lived. And there was this great little like park and grocery store and a chain of restaurants right there. And Lola's happened to be one of the spots that we tried last, but it was our favorite. And it's like paella. You have like these giant seafood paellas, a lot of old world foods. There's some Italian dishes in there, and they serve the best. I'm not kidding. The best bread and garlic butter ever. It's like they puree the garlic in the butter.
Oof.
So it's just, you can just feel like everything cleaning out, but it's that really good spiciness in that garlic. It's so good. So if you ever get a chance, Lola's.
What are your favorite things to do in the city?
I love New Orleans. I mean, no matter what ends up happening in life, I would love to create a space for myself here. Like, I definitely have aspirations of being in bigger cities like New York and Los Angeles in time, and setting up a space for myself there, because that's the career that we've chosen. But New Orleans, I think, will always have a home. So maybe I'll buy a property and then I can do like an Airbnb kind of thing. Who knows? By that point, it might all be like digital apartment house or whatever. But I think what it is about our city is that it's like this magical little place where no matter who you are, what you want to do in life, it's like when you walk through, to me, this, like, follow me on this, is like this city is like surrounded by this magic that when you step through, anything is possible.
Mm.
There's really that feel of anything is possible, and the people next to you are all on their own path,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, yeah, you do you, because my possible isn't gonna even have to jive with your possible, but at the same time, it's a come up, and it's like I'm with you. What you
Mm-hmm.
need, I'm there for you. If you need something, I got you. There's this like this
There's a
again.
sense of togetherness.
There is
Because I moved away.
Yeah.
So I lived in LA for a few years,
Yeah.
and now I'm kind of stationed in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up here,
Mm-hmm.
so I spent a lot of my adolescence, adulthood here in New Orleans. But whenever you move away, you kind of get a different appreciation for it than when you're here, when you're like in the thick of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's magic.
Yeah.
It really is.
No,
there is literally no place like it.
There is no place like it. I mean, I lived a lot of places around the world, and there's places and there's cultures that have that sense of like in Hawaii, there's a lot of like the culture is like you're a tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some of that, but what it is about New Orleans, I think, is that it's an old city. So there's so many people that like own it and make it their own, and there's so much tradition.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like these people that can come through and be artists and musicians and like just delve into their craft. I mean, I know woodworkers, I know burlesque dancers, I know bankers that come to the city and like thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all doing it together.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows about that parade, or
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows about that festival, or like it's just that time of year. There's always something going on.
Every weekend.
Every weekend there's something going on, which is like it's hard on the body.
Mm-hmm.
You got to balance it out with some good nutrition and a little bit of health and wellness and self-care. But when you learn to do that balance, it's like, to me, it's cliche as hell, but we are below sea level, and it's just this bowl, and we're a gumbo. Like, we are a mixture of all these wonderful things about the human experience, and I think we appreciate that about each other's cultures. So like within a mile, you have these rich homes in Uptown, down the street from Treme, but those people go to the same grocery store, and there's a sense of togetherness there.
Mm-hmm. Unity.
Like,
Everyone's in the struggle together.
There is, yeah. And I mean, classism and racism, all those things are a part of like where we live in as an American culture,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll always have to deal with those things. But I feel like New Orleanians transcend that in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
and it would take me forever to get into how and why I know that in my like truth of my being. But I see it
Mm-hmm.
regularly, and like there's just like this joy that you get from being able to say that you're from here,
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go out into the rest of the world, people, when you tell them you're from New Orleans, they have a totally different appreciation for you as a person. I think that that's something that when you're from here though too, you also know that it's kind of third world country. Like, make sure you put the water dripping, because otherwise the pipes will freeze, and that kind of shit. So there's that badge of honor when you meet other New Orleanians out and about, where you just say,
you share this common.
So I appreciate that about our city. But yeah, it's magical.
Not to get too political,
Sure.
but obviously there's been a change of power. New mayor in town.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic in the direction the city's headed?
Yeah. So you can kind of hear them trailing off the sirens in the background. I had a phone call with my best friend who lives in New York, and I heard sirens, and I was just like, what's that? She's like, New York. And I think that when people think about our city, we have this unfortunate like outward projection that it's unsafe, or there's crime, or these other things. And like, we live on Earth, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's things in every like city, every neighborhood, every culture. And there's progressive ways to counter that,
Mm-hmm.
but to have an entire city be safe, that's wonderful. That's not where I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
I want to live in a place where I understand that there's poor people over here and they're trying to survive, and what can we do to make their life better? What can we do to change that system, that broken system that's creating those bad things, so instead of just avoiding it?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's an important part of it, is like understanding that, yeah, come here, let's fix it, let's work on it, instead of just like, let's run, you know. And I think that we are doing that. Like in 300 years, New Orleans has never had a female mayor, a black female mayor. That's about to happen. That's a progress in and of itself, because now you have young girls that can see that, and representation, we understand, is just very important. So that will be such a great new path for the city. Just kind of giving a chance for the more marginalized citizens to see opportunity is theirs. Do black people have to work extra hard sometimes? Yeah, 100%. Is that going to change because of a new mayor? No, not necessarily, but it can definitely inspire growth and change, and that is a change, right? And then when it comes to the infrastructure and the challenges that we're facing with, the sewage system, traffic cameras, just like thinking about logistics of living in a city. One of the things we're doing now is the Blue Bike program, right? Trying to make sure that the city is more of a commuter city, and I think that that's a big step forward. Now, how do we counter some of the bad things in our celebration culture? You see nowadays there's a lot more fitness studios, a lot more health and wellness programs, basically teaching people that you can still enjoy life and still enjoy the traditional dishes, but here is a way to make them healthier. Like that's all happening. A lot of people aren't aware of it, but yeah, I do think we're on the right path. I think what really happens for many human beings is that they want it to be done immediately. They're looking for that instant gratification, but what we need to be doing is like planting the seeds now to have a stronger city in the future. One thing I would love to see is an influx and use of like progressive technology. So like Tesla and what that program is doing. If we could find a way to have them work with us, not them specifically, but just a company like that, company wanting to do things like solar paneling and then incorporating that into public housing. And how do we, use what we know to be the really cutting edge or state of the art work in the development of a city that is so wonderfully known for its ancient like history, and it's not ancient, it's 300 years old, but it's older world culture, and then taken into the modern day age, right?
To add to the health and wellness conversation, you are a trainer. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, sure.
What is your niche? What is your focus?
Fell in love specifically with movement and dance. Trained in aerial arts. You've seen like Cirque du Soleil, where they climb the aerial silk. Other apparatuses such as the lyra. Just being in the air, like as a mover, was an evolution. It was a change in myself, in my being. Because when you're dancing and you're floating and you're moving through air on the ground, you're kind of limited by the range of motion. But then you take it to air, and you can really move at 360 degrees. And that, to me, kind of opened me up as an artist. And I took that into my work. So even to this day, like when I'm creating character, I think often about like how they breathe and how they move. So it informs my acting in that way, and I just really wanted to learn more about that in the human body. So I got my personal training license, started a business teaching calisthenics and meditation, and of course got certifications to be able to do that. And eventually that business toppled. So got my first entrepreneur failure out of the way, which I'm proud of. And after that, I ran the Orange Theory Fitness program, which is heart rate based technology. So using heart rate monitors and progressive cross-training to get people to move forward in their health and wellness goals, specifically with weight loss. And that was so important because, as a country, we are overweight, and that's another conversation. But that helped me to understand, science and technology and how that can be used in exercise and wellness. And then I left that program to study Pilates, kind of getting back to my roots of like movement and like human movement. And I have now Pilates certification to add to that. I've taught aerial silks. I've taught personal training and group training sessions. And so for me, fitness is or wellness and fitness is just as human as like breathing. And I think that people need to understand their bodies more. Unfortunately, we have a societal culture that makes us more sedentary and more lazy. So we have to counter that. And that's what I like about the work. I now call myself a movement coach because I teach TRX suspension training. I teach Pilates regularly, and I also teach sort of like HIIT balance yoga, like fusions. And what I'm really just doing is helping people to understand movement within their own body and empowering them to do things on their own, and then just getting them excited about the idea of like growth and personal growth through challenge, and what that does for them, not just in exercise and wellness, but then in their life and like what they can do. One of my favorite quotes to share with people is, "A full cup runneth over." So in order for you to be the best boyfriend or son or mom or dad, you have to be able to take care of yourself. Health is paramount, and a lot of times we put it on the back burner. So whether I'm teaching 40 people or 400 people, I've actually had a chance to warm up a group of 8,000 people before in working in wellness. It was for a bubble run, like getting people on their feet and getting them excited about the run. A full cup runneth over, and that idea is that in order for you to be your best self for your people in your life, whether that means you fulfilling your role as like a son or a daughter or a mother or father, you really have to take care of yourself in order for you to have the ability to give. And I think that's what it's really all about. It's like giving, not necessarily in the sense of like money, although that's great too. It's really more in the sense of like your time. Like that's one of the most precious things you can give to yourself or someone. Or for someone is if someone's sick and you're there for them, you're making them soup. If someone has a goal or a dream, you're taking them to classes, you're supporting them along the way. That comes from being able to be healthy. And a lot of people, put those things unfortunately to the back burner because there's this pressure to find success or find material success.
Yeah.
And I think that it's backwards. It's like if you take care of your health and wellness, those other things fall into place. Or you're more grateful for what you do have. And to me, that's what I enjoy about working in fitness and wellness, is that I still feel like I'm in alignment with who I am as a person. I think that what I had a hard time with, going back to the beginning of this, when I moved here and like working in restaurant culture, was the idea that I was serving people to excess maybe sometimes, in a city that is just known for like vibrancy and craziness. You were fueling a lot of that sometimes, and then same thing with the food, like not helping people to understand balance and the importance of getting full nutrition instead of just always the fatty or most delicious thing. It didn't fulfill me the same way. And so now to work in wellness, I mean, I know I'm lucky. I'm very lucky that I not only have a career that I'm working towards and like this overarching goal, but I also have another career within that career that is very rewarding. And I can say that, and a lot of people I know in our industry are still grappling with that. It does take me away from that. I think there's something to be said for the people that are badasses that are like, I'm gonna go move to New York. I'm gonna give up everything that I know and love, and just do this. I believe wholeheartedly in that pursuit as well. It just wasn't my path in that way. I wanted my day to day to be a little bit more about living instead of trying to make a life.
Someone out there maybe wanting to start this journey into health, maybe breaking some old habits, just wanting to get in shape, and someone that wanted to work with you, like someone in the city.
Sure.
How do they work with you? Or where are you training at?
I teach all over. So I mainly work at a Pilates studio at the moment. And Pilates method is about basically moving from like a strong center. There's these principles of breathing and core. So if someone is interested in like learning about their body, then they can come and see me at this place. It's called Club Pilates. It's in Old Metairie, and it's a newer studio we just opened in August. We have classes throughout the week, and there's a website. It's just clubpilates.com. Look up New Orleans. For people that are interested in weight loss or weight management, and they already have a good understanding of their body, they like to exercise, they like to move. I teach TRX classes at a studio called Higher Power. Higher Power is a full concept studio, meaning that whatever your health and wellness goals are, you could join and become a member, and you get a little bit of everything. So there's cycling for cardio respiratory health, there's TRX for strength training, weight loss, weight management, and then there's yoga for internal balance, and of course for strengthening, lengthening, and muscle tissue. And so I teach specifically TRX. You can come see me there. HigherPowerNOLA.com is the website. And then I work with another studio in town that's also a yoga studio. called Balance Yoga and Wellness, and I teach a HIIT training class there. And the HIIT is functional HIIT for yogis, so I use things like their poses as an active recovery. So, for instance, we may do like jump squats, and then right after the jump squats, we'll go into a chair pose, and you have to hold that chair pose, which is an isometric exercise, for, let's say, 30 seconds, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So, if someone is in yoga, or if they are interested in becoming more body aware, then that would be a good place for them to start as well, because it's not as dynamic as the TRX, so it's much more approachable. It's just us, your body, maybe some yoga blocks, maybe a couple of yoga mats, but that's about it. I play everything from what do I play? I play Kid Cudi. I play Fifth Harmony, like pop, hip hop. I play Warren G. I play old school.
Okay.
I play just anything, everything.
Yeah.
And then what I like to do with workouts is I'll set an intention. So every workout has a different theme. I was riding over here and I was listening to Maroon 5. I was actually listening to WGNO before that, and they have a black pianist that was being interviewed. I forget his name now, but you could probably look him up. But that led me to think about this idea, that song, Sugar, Yes Please. You know that one, right? So I'm like, all right, next week we're going to talk about being sweet. So sweet is like this really like counter concept in fitness, right? But how do we make that work? So like songs about sugar. Fall Out Boy has a song about sugar. Honey from Mariah Carey. Like, so I'll pick out some musical themes there. And then like when I say sweet, I might think about, that concept of like, damn, I wasn't expecting that extra $100. Sweet. I gotta, so maybe it's the word. Maybe it's that. Sweet can be, taking care of your lover, taking care of your honey, just doing something sweet for them. Inspiring people through the workout to think about things that they can do to be nice to somebody in the week, which is just, bringing up positivity in the world. And that's kind of like the ultimate goal, I think, for the work that I do anyway. So yeah.
Are there any directors, actors, actresses that you would want to work for? Are there any, is there like a dream list of people that...
I haven't. Yeah, exactly. Let me just pull it up. Ava DuVernay, Tom Hanks. In terms of like my particular style, my concept of what it means to tell an intriguing story, I like people that say something universal but do it in a unique way. So to me, Tim Burton has that. He does that with the macabre. I think what's my guy's name? I'm forgetting his name right now. Royal Tenenbaums.
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson is another one that like. It's very style specific, very like, he has his own way of doing things. He collects these ensembles of crew people and actors that just like speak the same language. And I love that about him. And it would be a dream to work with him because, again, I feel like his movies are, at the heart of them, they're universal stories. But because they're so off the beaten path in terms of like the story itself or the production design, there's just this whimsy that's kind of cool, and I think that's what all stories should be, is like a little bit outside of our normal reality. The best directors do that for me. Like I said, Ava DuVernay, she's a disruptor. She's going in and telling her kind of story.
She's killing the game right now, man.
For sure, absolutely. And I mean, the writing was on the wall back in the day whenever she first kind of hit the scene, and now she's just really kind of stepping into that role and like becoming a leader and a change maker. And I think she was always kind of prepped for that, because she did work prior to directing. She was working in film and television. I think she was working with HBO or Showtime, or she was doing
HBO.
Yeah,
I'm not sure though.
And so it just goes to show you that we need storytellers from all walks of life to come in and just like really take the reins and start to like lead this industry. And I think you're starting to see a little bit of that now, with just knowing that we've had a consciousness shift lately.
Yeah.
And that's been pretty cool.
You definitely feel the energy has shifted this year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts with Time's Up? Me Too.
At the heart of the matter is you have someone in power who is supposed to be a leader abusing power, then they are wrong. That's unethical by many different standards and levels. I think it's very easy nowadays to just sort of feel conflicted about the truth of things because of this age that we live in, where there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of BS and crap. People wanting to be in media but not having integrity and just saying things for clicks or for likes.
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing makes people complicit because they don't want to sit there and have the hard thoughts of like, you know, have I ever abused my power? Or worse, have I ever been a victim of power abuse and not even understood it because I don't understand those dynamics?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the one that makes me like really frustrated and angry because I just want to go in and like help that person understand that first of all, it's okay that that did happen, but second of all, you know, yeah, you need to be able to have the voice to speak up and to do those things. And I think that, like circling back to your original question, what Time's Up and Me Too is doing is it's shifting the zeitgeist to help people to understand that that isn't okay. So young girls and boys that are coming up in this culture in this day and age can understand that they have total freedom. They have the right to talk someone about whatever they're experiencing, even if it's something that needs to be examined. And you know, it's never cut and dry because we live in a complex world. But don't like silence yourself because of your fear,
Mm-hmm.
and don't silence yourself because of the societal pressure. And I think that that's what they're doing a very good job of. For sure, I'm a big fan of the Times Up Me Too like movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you feel that forgiveness is in this conversation? Can you forgive someone that's been accused? Can you still support someone that's been accused?
Right. So like, you know, examples.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Like for instance, I'm a big fan of Master of None.
Okay. Yes.
So I've been a fan for years now of Aziz,
Mm-hmm.
back to Parks and Rec days.
Yeah.
So I'm conflicted now, man.
Sure.
I'm in a position where do I still support him?
Right.
Do I watch?
Yeah, no, I get that, and I think that so one of the things that this Me Too culture is really doing a good job of is bringing to light the ubiquitousness of people in power abusing their power,
Mm-hmm.
and it's making people re-examine their actions. Good,
Mhm.
you should have a conscience.
Mhm.
You're about to make a choice about something when it comes to sex.
Mm-hmm.
Stop and think. You know, we don't teach enough people to do that. But like with regards to Aziz specifically in that particular scenario, I think that like Aziz, when I read the experience that the young girl had and that she like gave to media and said, you know, here's what I regretted about the date. I thought that that's exactly what it was. It's a regret, and it shouldn't have been involved or included in the Me Too conversation.
Okay.
Because if you look at the scenario, Aziz wasn't a predator. They didn't work together. You know, he took her on a date. He was just shitty at sex, and he was being an aggressor during that experience. But should it be included in this zeitgeist where you're talking about rape and power abuse and you know sexual misconduct from people that you know and trust?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so, and I think that that particular scenario then can become a taint to
Mm-hmm.
what the movement is trying to do for a lot of people who live a very status quo life that don't even want to examine those kinds of things, and so then they see something like that, and it by no means am I excusing any of the culture that we have created that's sort of making all this happen, but they utilize it as a means of justification to say, well, you know, this particular instance goes to show you that it's not always the guy's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. If you're committing rape, it is your fault.
Mm-hmm.
But in this particular scenario, that wasn't happening,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where it gets a little clouded. And so I think at the end of the day, what you need to be doing is examining it for yourself, and that's the hardest pill for people to swallow. Is like, don't just make an opinion. Go and read the articles. Go and find out who these people are. Go and understand it from a fuller perspective. Get context, and then make your choice. And then you can decide about forgiveness and what you want to do from that point on, instead of jumping on a bandwagon, you know, of whatever's going on in the zeitgeist, whatever Facebook is saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's that forgiveness and how we examine like our art and our artists is personal, and it should remain that way in many ways. I don't believe in the whole witch hunt experience. So for me, I'm going to continue to support Aziz. I'm going to continue to watch his work. I'll probably, unfortunately, look at him in a different light. You know, it's hard when your heroes fall, right? Because you admire him. I mean, if you look at that storyline in Master of None, where he actually includes the idea of a sexual predator.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a guy who is looked up to in the story, then it comes to light that in the story that he is he's sexually abusive, and you know, for Aziz to even address that particular topic is groundbreaking, and that's good. But then on the flip side of it, he's included in this conversation, and so it's sort of this, it's conflicting, right?
Mhm.
And I think that there's going to be gray things always, and so it's up to us to examine and decide for ourselves.
For sure. Okay, I mean, just to like kind of wrap it up, I
Sure.
guess. You have any questions for me?
Yes. All right. Good. I was like, wait, tables turn. So let's do rapid fire. I'm going to ask you 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Favorite childhood movie?
Favorite childhood movie? Sandlot.
Oh, good one. Very good one. There's so many good things from that. Okay. Did you ever play baseball?
I did.
You did?
I played second base and shortstop
So
in high
you've been in
school.
the Jet?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
Cool.
Yeah, he's my distant cousin. But yeah, I played second base, shortstop. I played a lot of sports. I played basketball, football, soccer at different times of my life.
Right. Yeah.
But man, baseball is the one that I miss the most.
I agree. There's something about, I think, the type of experiences you have between plays in that sport than in any other sport that I think are just, for me, I just remember like the feeling of being a player.
Yeah.
And then when you do have those plays, they're always epic,
Yeah.
right? Because everything is a part of that whole ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm.
Inning by inning, there's that challenge of like, how do we make it happen? But again, there's a lot of downtime in baseball.
Yeah.
So when something does happen, it really happens. Yeah. Okay. Science or art?
Art.
Okay. Why?
I've always been drawn to storytelling. So whatever medium that is. So it could be a painting,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a song.
Mhm.
I've never really been drawn to the sciences.
Okay.
Like biology, chemistry. It never was my thing. I always enjoyed writing. I always enjoyed, reading more than math and science.
So then this is my next question then. Do you have a process when you are tackling the development of a character, or if you're tackling like a story that you want to tell? Do you have a process that you have like come to at this point in your career?
I guess we're talking about like the script.
Sure, like if you're like let's say script analysis or breakdown, or is it always intuitive?
I
Like,
guess
how do
my
you work?
process with receiving a script or a scene or scenes, just like to read it.
Okay.
I think that initial first read
Mm-hmm.
is kind of everything.
Sure.
So I don't always necessarily, if I get an email, my agent emails me, you have an audition on Thursday. I don't always click it instantly.
Okay.
So I'll get it and I'll see it. Okay, I need a tape by then. I need to be here by then. I may wait till I get home,
Right.
or I may wait till I have a certain allotted time to, like, really devote all my energy to that initial first read.
Right.
But once I do read it, I just read it straight through. So I read it and I don't even read it out loud. I like to just read it as if I'm reading a book, an article. And then from there, it's just breaking it down, I guess, line by line and repetition.
Mm-hmm.
I like to read it a lot,
Yeah.
like over and over again, almost to the point of where it's like obsessive.
Yeah.
And then I like to get with someone else, read it out loud with someone. I think reading it out loud is, because you can get caught in just reading it.
Yeah.
And then whenever you read it out loud, that made sense.
Sure.
You hear your voice, or someone gives you a note, and you're like, I didn't think about that.
Right.
So
there's a quality, not to cut you off,
Mhm.
but there's a quality in sound that, like, I think it happens in language that we don't even realize, but people say about New Orleanians all the time is like there's a musicality to the way people from
Mhm.
New Orleans speak.
yeah.
And I think that, like, depending on the scene, when you hear it out loud, you're looking for maybe that music of the scene,
Mm-hmm.
that ability for the sounds that are coming from the actual literal words on the page
Mhm.
to the delivery of those and how that plays as a part of how someone can take that story in, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that that's so underappreciated, like in really good dialogue artists. Like Sorkin is one of the people that are well known for. Yeah, his stuff is heightened, but it's this music. It's this sort of ideal. What if we could speak to each other in that way, say the thoughts that we're trying to say, or avoid the things that we don't want to say, and here's what we're going to say instead, and just like what that means to a story and how that can be compelling and interesting. I think that's pretty cool. So read. And my question is because I was curious because I want to know. To me, that's a science. Like there's a science to art, right?
For sure, and I think it's in the research.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah.
Initially it's read, but then it kind of shifts towards research.
Sure.
So I like to do my homework. So if it's a period piece, if it's something to do with
you got an
World
interesting
War
look
II,
right now.
Yeah. So if it's something specific, I don't like to just guess or I mean we have Google, so like I read and then I just attack Google and try and just become a detective, man. Like try and find 100%. Out what's happening.
Let's see. If you had a chance to, this is a tough one. I'm gonna give you an ultimatum. I know. If you had a chance to be an extra in a Steven Spielberg movie, or if you had a chance to be a director in a film that you were only going to be able to show to about 20 art students, which one would you choose?
That's tough. I think I would have to go. I could not turn down Spielberg, man.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I think there's more to learn.
Right.
So just being that fly on the wall as an extra, and maybe just seeing him direct one scene,
right,
or have one conversation with his cinematographer, then maybe
100%,
like just so invaluable.
I get that,
and maybe you can use that you acquire from him, to direct that art student film or whatever.
I do know, and I'll say like I intentionally picked that. I try to pit those things against each other because I'm curious. Because I actually think you do have a lot to say and like offer, and because I've seen some of your work, I've seen the things that you do. So I do view you as someone who can step into the directing role now and like really express themselves and do like amazing work.
Well, thanks, man.
I see that. I see that in you, but I also am always curious to know like where people are with things because I think that you hit the nail on the head in that to be able to be with Spielberg would be like one of the ultimate learning experiences, and learning and what that is to be a student and to be humble and to be able to say there's still so much I need to like acquire and so that's pretty cool. I appreciate your thoughtfulness on that particular question. Good, cool. All right. Let's see. Health and wellness.
Okay.
We're talking about all these things for health and wellness lately. Do you have any daily routines, things that you do to make sure that you're staying up on your wellness? I know some people I talk to, they'll meditate regularly, or they'll make sure that they, make their certain concoction of apple cider vinegar and water in the morning. Like, do you have anything like that?
First thing that comes to mind is I like to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
So I drink water a lot.
Okay.
That is a daily routine. I like to have a glass of water within 30 minutes of waking up.
Yeah.
Just drink some water, start the day right. I like to stay away from overconsumption of caffeine. But I'll have a cup of coffee.
Sure.
But I just don't like to have cups of coffee.
Right.
Every day.
Right.
So I like to stay away from caffeine. I've been working on staying away from dairy. I like to eat fruit every day.
Okay.
Whatever it is. Right now I'm really into oranges.
Yeah.
So
we talked about that.
Yeah. So I'm eating almost at least one orange a day.
Is that like your thing? So that might be like your daily ritual. Like
that right now that's my thing, man.
Yeah. Always have an orange on you.
Yeah.
You go to set. You
just whip out an orange. But I don't like to miss too many meals.
Yeah.
So, but it's not on a schedule. So like I don't eat at 8 a.m. I don't eat at 12 p.m. and I don't eat at 6 p.m. Every day is different. I just don't like to go without having breakfast or
Look,
without having a lunch.
I think that that's important to have that ability to be a little bit more flexible with it too, because of the work that we do, right? Because I feel like when I run into other artists that are a little bit more rigid about like their consumption with food or like their workout regime, they are just thrown when they have to go and be on a set for a week because it just takes you out of that place, And so I think it's good to be a little flexible and understand that like you're not always going to be able to eat because of the work that we do.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes because of like let's say it's like all night shoots for an entire week, that can mess you up, like and I mean that on a deeper level. There's like studies about health and wellness with like circadian rhythms and like how you should be sleeping, but also just like what it is to just be in habit and have your habits broken. It kind of like messes with you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's good that you have that flexibility. That's good.
Yeah. Well, it's been a great conversation, man. We've known each other for a few years.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes we come across each other in the city. We also we look similar.
Yeah.
So sometimes we audition for the same projects, and just as a fellow, New Orleanian, as a friend, whenever I feel proud whenever, say, you book something or you get a project and something comes your way that is success.
Right. No.
So
absolutely.
it's been a fun conversation. I think you are extremely talented. You have a lot of good things coming your way, man, and I wish you all the success, man.
Yeah, man. Like I think when you say like you're proud, I think it's honestly you don't put it to words because we know each other, but it's not like we've ever been in each other's lives regularly. Like we never worked together on a project. But you just meet somebody and you just know like that's my people, and I appreciate that that feeling or that you say that because the feeling is very mutual. When I see your success, I see that as my brother coming up. I see that as someone. And I think that kindredness is maybe because we look alike.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'm thinking, but I think the kindredness it was always there. But I think it's cool now that as we're developing, like professionally, we're able to just reach out to each other and be there for each other, and they kind of have that sense of, what do you have going on? That's excellent. I support that. And just that's what we do. Like that's what you do. I think people talk often about like, oh, go in the industry and figure out, who, when they say like network, right? Go network, and it's like networking to me is so false. It's so like disingenuous. Just like go create something, meet other creators, and then hopefully you'll be able to collaborate one day.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has been a very interesting experience,
right.
but a good one. You made me self-reflect and examine in many ways. So I'm sure I'll be reeling on some of the things I've said. So edit it well.
Okay.